When you think of the Gilded Age era in the United States, few names evoke as much prestige and influence as Carnegie, a family that shaped America's industrial might and transformed philanthropy into a lifelong mission. Indeed, Andrew Carnegie wasn't just the steel baron of his time. He was a visionary who channeled his vast wealth into creating extraordinary estates that embodied his ideals of sophistication, art, and knowledge. Thus, in today's episode of Old Money Mansions, we'll open the dynamic doors to the Carnegie family's architectural marvels, each residence telling its own story of power, ambition, and cultural legacy. Undoubtedly, these weren't just homes. They were symbols of the Carnegie ethos, where every detail reflected Carnegie's belief that great wealth should inspire and uplift as we take you through the Carnegie family's Old Money Mansions. Number 1. The Carnegie Hill Mansion, New York City, New York. First on our list is the Carnegie Mansion, an extraordinary example of Gilded Age architecture and a reflection of both Andrew Carnegie's immense wealth and his desire to innovate. Built between the years 1899 and 1902, this 64-room Georgian Revival home on New York's Upper East Side was a forward-thinking project for its time. Designed by the distinguished firm of Babb, Cook and Willard, it marked a bold decision by Carnegie to plant his roots north of the established society neighborhoods, far beyond the 70th Street social scene. In doing so, he sparked the development of what is now Carnegie Hill. And Carnegie's vision extended well beyond location. By purchasing land from 90th to 92nd Streets along Fifth Avenue, he secured more than just prime real estate. He set the stage for a pioneering architectural feat. The mansion's structural framework, for instance, was one of the earliest examples of steel frame construction in a private residence, a fitting tribute to the industry that fueled his fortune. However, it wasn't just the bones of the house that were ahead of their time. The mansion featured a fully operational Otis passenger elevator, rare in private homes of the era, making it a marvel of modern convenience. Yet Carnegie didn't stop at structural innovation. His mansion came equipped with a sophisticated heating system that would impress even today's standards. With the ability to control the temperature and humidity in each individual room, it was an early experiment in what would eventually become modern air conditioning. Not only that, but the cellar also housed a miniature train system used to transport coal to the boilers, another nod to Carnegie's obsession with efficiency. Additionally, one of the most unique aspects of the mansion was its expansive private garden. And in a city where green space is a premium, Carnegie carved out his own personal sanctuary amidst the urban sprawl. Designed by landscape architect Richard Schermerhorn Jr., the garden provided the family with a rare respite from the hustle of Manhattan life. Today, that same garden continues to offer tranquility to visitors of the museum housed within the mansion's walls. Now, Andrew Carnegie lived here until his death in 1919, but the house was more than just a home. It became the command center for his numerous philanthropic endeavors. His wife, Louise Whitfield Carnegie, carried on the tradition after his passing, living in the mansion until her death in 1946. Even in her widowhood, Louise upheld many of the customs and practices established by her husband, ensuring the mansion's spirit remained intact. Despite the mansion's grand scale and technological sophistication, Carnegie often described it as modest. This paradox reveals the tension between his public image as one of the wealthiest men in the world and his personal belief in humble living, and Carnegie's well-documented philosophy, as outlined in his essay *The Gospel of Wealth*, advocated for using one's fortune to benefit society. It was thus this same philosophy that led him to donate the mansion after his wife's death, ensuring that it would continue to serve the public good. And the heart of the mansion, both figuratively and literally, was its library. This room, with its beautifully crafted ceiling and walls lined with books, was Carnegie's sanctuary. It mirrored his lifelong passion for literature and education, offering him a personal retreat where he could indulge in one of his greatest pleasures, reading. And this love for knowledge extended far beyond his home, of course. Carnegie's endowment of thousands of libraries across the country is one of his most enduring legacies. After Louise's passing, the mansion was donated to the Carnegie Corporation, following the principles Andrew himself had set forth. However, its transformation was far from over. In 1976, the mansion reopened as the Cooper Hewitt Smithsonian Design Museum. In this new role, the mansion became not just a relic of Carnegie's past, but a living, breathing institution dedicated to the promotion of design and innovation, perfectly in line with Carnegie's values of progress and education. In keeping with its history of innovation, the mansion has undergone several renovations, the most significant of which took place in 2014. These updates not only modernized the space, but also expanded its functionality as a museum. The addition of the Barbara and Morton Mandel Design Gallery, along with 17,000 square feet of new exhibition space, brought a new dimension to the historic home. Therefore, the Carnegie Mansion today stands as a monument to both one of America's greatest industrialists and to the ever-changing landscape of New York City. It embodies the spirit of Carnegie himself, constantly evolving, always forward-thinking, yet forever rooted in a deep commitment to public service and education. Number 2. Skibo Castle, Sutherland, Scotland. Perched in the majestic Scottish Highlands, Skibo Castle proudly overlooks the Dornoch Firth, a stunning stretch of water that has witnessed centuries of history. Yet, while its roots date back to the 13th century, it wasn't until the late 19th century that this stately castle took on its current form, thanks to the vision and deep pockets of none other than Andrew Carnegie. However, it's not just the castle's impressive architecture that captures attention. It's the transformation Carnegie brought to this estate, turning it into one of Scotland's most luxurious retreats. You see, in 1898, Carnegie fell for Skibo's rugged beauty and, as one does when one's net worth reaches Rockefeller levels, decided to buy it for a cool 85,000 Great British pounds. But, as with any home purchase, that was just the beginning. Carnegie soon embarked on a large-scale renovation that would see the estate grow dramatically in both size and stature. With the help of Inverness architects Ross and Macbeth, the castle tripled in size, stretching to a jaw-dropping 60,000 square feet, all while maintaining the charm of its Scottish baronial style. And the modernization was as ambitious as it was forward-thinking. In an era when many homes relied on candles and oil lamps, Carnegie brought electric lighting to Skibo Castle. Furthermore, he installed an internal lift, which was nothing short of cutting-edge for its time. And that's not even mentioning the 20 guest suites, each with access to hot and cold running water, an absolute luxury by turn-of-the-century standards. Yet Carnegie didn't stop there. The estate's indulgent features expanded to include an indoor swimming pavilion and a 9-hole golf course, the latter a nod to Carnegie's love for the sport. So impressive were these updates that in 1902, King Edward VII felt compelled to make an unannounced visit, curious to see what he could borrow for his own royal residences. However, the splendor of Skibo wasn't limited to its modern comforts. The estate became a refuge for the elite, drawing in everyone from industrial titans to political figures, and yes, even royalty. Carnegie himself was known to wax lyrical about the estate's beauty, famously remarking, "Heaven itself is not so beautiful as Skibo." And for those fortunate enough to be invited, the sentiment surely rang true. The combination of luxurious living and breathtaking highland views was unmatched. Yet for all its grandeur, Skibo was more than just a lavish playground for the rich. Carnegie, ever the philanthropist, used the estate as a base for his broader social mission. He hosted summer schools for local children, providing education and healthcare for the surrounding community, ensuring that the benefits of his wealth extended beyond the castle walls. This ethos of generosity, woven into the fabric of Skibo, set it apart from the stereotypical private retreats of the era. After Carnegie's passing, The estate remained within the family until 1982, when businessman Peter de Savary acquired it and established the Carnegie Club, an exclusive members-only club that added a layer of discretion to its already luxurious reputation. Then, in 2003, the property changed hands once again, this time to American businessman Ellis Short, who bought it for £23 million and proceeded to pour in an additional £20 million for further refurbishments. Today, Skibo Castle continues to dazzle as the Carnegie Club. Its members enjoy a vast array of activities that feel straight out of a modern-day Edwardian fantasy. Rounds of golf on the Carnegie links, clay pigeon shooting, horse riding, and even tennis. Yet, for all its updates, including a state-of-the-art spa and a glass-paned swimming pool, the castle still retains the Edwardian splendor Carnegie originally envisioned. The balance between historical grandeur and contemporary luxury is what keeps Skibo among the world's most prestigious private clubs. Skibo Castle, through its many chapters of ownership and transformation, remains as enchanting as ever. Its timeless beauty and unparalleled attention to detail reflect not just Carnegie's vision, but the enduring appeal of the Scottish Highlands, a place where history, luxury, and natural beauty coexist in perfect harmony. Number 3. Shadowbrook, Lenox, Massachusetts. In the waning years of his extraordinary life, Andrew Carnegie found an unexpected refuge in the serene landscape of western Massachusetts. Thus, Shadowbrook, a sprawling Gilded Age mansion, became Carnegie's final haven, offering a place of peace and reflection amidst the Berkshire Mountains. Now, Carnegie purchased Shadowbrook in 1917, attracted to its majestic views and quiet isolation. And the estate, built in 1893 for the wealthy banker Anson Phelps Stokes, was not just any mansion. It was a grand expression of Gilded Age excess. With its 100 rooms and a facade stretching 410 feet across, Shadowbrook briefly held the title of the largest private residence in the United States. For a man who had spent his life building a steel empire, the sheer scale of the place may have been part of the appeal. However, it wasn't only the house that captivated Carnegie. The surrounding grounds, designed by a protégé of Frederick Law Olmsted, celebrated for his work on New York's Central Park, enhanced the estate's grandeur. Shadowbrook was as much about the vastness of its manicured landscape as it was about the architectural statement of the mansion itself. Furthermore, it offered Carnegie a sense of serenity, something that had perhaps eluded him during his industrious years. Yet despite its grandeur, Carnegie was content to leave Shadowbrook largely unchanged. He wasn't seeking to reinvent it, but rather to savor its tranquility. The mansion became his retreat, where he could reflect on his life's work, particularly his later efforts in philanthropy and his failed attempts at world peace following World War I. A local newspaper, the Berkshire Eagle, once described Carnegie's desire for a quiet place where he could meditate, and Shadowbrook provided just that. In a way, Shadowbrook became the stage for the final chapter of Carnegie's life, both poignant and inevitable. On the 11th of August 1919, at 83 years old, he passed away within its walls, succumbing to bronchial pneumonia. His death marked not just the end of his own storied life, but also a symbolic close to the Gilded Age itself, a period of immense wealth, ambition, and excess. Carnegie, once the richest man in the world, had used his final years to devote himself to causes far removed from the accumulation of wealth. By the time of his death, Carnegie had given away a staggering $350 million, a sum that, in today's terms, would be worth approximately $6 billion. True to the principles outlined in his essay, The Gospel of Wealth, he believed that the rich had a moral obligation to distribute their fortunes for the public good. Libraries, educational institutions, and peace initiatives around the world bore his financial imprint, and Shadowbrook became the quiet witness to his ultimate retreat from public life. And yet, the story of Shadowbrook didn't end with Carnegie. After his passing, his widow sold the estate in 1922 to the New England province of the Society of Jesus. For decades, this former Gilded Age mansion transformed into a Jesuit novitiate, where young men prepared for lives of service. Its cavernous halls, once filled with the luxuries of industrial age wealth, now echoed with the footsteps of those on a much different path. However, fate had other plans for Shadowbrook. On a cold March day in 1956, disaster struck when an oil explosion in the boiler room ignited a devastating fire. The blaze ravaged the mansion, claiming the lives of 4 Jesuit priests and reducing the once stately home to ashes. The mansion that had seen the rise of American industry and served as a sanctuary for one of its greatest titans was no more. Nevertheless, Shadowbrook's story continues to resonate. Though the original mansion is gone, its legacy endures in the land itself. The estate is now home to the Kripalu Center for Yoga and Health, where visitors come seeking peace and reflection. It's a fitting evolution for a place that once offered solace to Andrew Carnegie during the twilight of his life. From its origins as a showpiece of the Gilded Age to its current incarnation as a center for personal wellness, Shadowbrook remains a place where the pursuit of serenity endures. Number 4. The Carnegie Mansion, Dungeness, Cumberland Island, Georgia. On the southern tip of Cumberland Island, off Georgia's coast, lie the remnants of an era defined by grandeur and ambition, the ruins of Dungeness Mansion. Once the jewel of the Carnegie family's southern estate, this now crumbled relic speaks to the fleeting nature of wealth and status. And yet, despite its ruin, it maintains an undeniable allure, a glimpse into a world of opulence that has slipped through the fingers of time. It was in 1881 when Thomas Carnegie, brother to the steel magnate Andrew Carnegie, acquired land on Cumberland Island. Though Thomas never lived to witness its completion, construction on Dungeness began in 1884. What had once been the site of a plantation evolved into a sprawling 59-room mansion, a grand Queen Anne-style creation. By 1886, the estate was complete, with expansive views of the Atlantic, sweeping verandas and gardens that spoke of meticulous care and vision. Thomas's widow, Lucy Carnegie, took the reins after his death, developing the property into something far more than a mere mansion. By the early 1900s, Dungeness had swelled to a staggering 35,000 square feet, and the Carnegie family didn't hold back in their pursuit of creating an ideal southern retreat. Pools, a golf course, and quarters for up to 200 servants transformed the grounds into a luxurious, self-contained world. Furthermore, like his brother Andrew, Thomas Carnegie left a legacy on Cumberland Island that stretched beyond their family's lavish estate. Churches and schools were built for the island's small community, including descendants of former slaves who had remained on the island post-Civil War. The Carnegies, it seemed, saw themselves not only as builders of empires, but also as caretakers of the communities they touched. The mansion became a stage for high society, with guests drifting through its halls, engaging in the kinds of grand events that have become the stuff of lore. The pinnacle of Dungeness's social calendar was the 1929 wedding of one of the Carnegie daughters, a grand affair, marking the last major event held at the estate. Yet with the stock market crash that same year and the ensuing Great Depression, the allure of such luxury began to fade. The Carnegies moved out by 1925, abandoning their paradise before the world itself seemed to shift under the weight of financial ruin. However, the story doesn't end with mere abandonment. In 1959, Dungeness was destroyed in a fire, rumoured to have been set by a poacher exacting revenge after being shot by the mansion's caretaker. For 3 days, the fire raged, its flames visible from the distant shores of St. Mary's, Georgia. What remained after was a charred skeleton of the former mansion, now standing like a monument to what was and what could never be again. The National Park Service, recognizing the cultural value of these ruins, took ownership in 1972, integrating Dungeness into the Cumberland Island National Seashore. Visitors today can wander the grounds where crumbling stone walls and overgrown paths are all that remain of the Carnegie's southern kingdom. Wild horses roam freely across the landscape, adding to the island's mystique, while the pristine beaches stretch out in the distance, nature's quiet retort to the grandiosity of human endeavour. However, the ruins of Dungeness aren't merely about faded glamour or a family's tragic retreat from the world of high society. They echo the larger story of America's Gilded Age, a time when fortunes were made, lost, and made again, and when the grandest mansions were as much about legacy as they were about personal comfort. And now, we'd love to see you in the comments. Which of these old money mansions of the Carnegies is your favourite? We can't wait to hear your personal taste and recommendations. And thanks for joining us for another episode of Old Money Mansions. And cheers until next time.